Sharon Barnes-Waters, and welcome to City Views, the show about people, places, and things that make New York great. The 43rd Harlem Week Festival kicks off July 30th through August the 26th. And there's so much to do, so much to see. And here to talk about the festival is Voza Rivers. He is the executive producer of Harlem Week, and he's also the first vice president of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce. And we have with us today to also talk about this is Clayton Banks. He is the co-founder of Silicon Harlem, and he's also an executive on the board of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce. And I want to welcome both gentlemen today to City Views.
Good morning and welcome.
So, Voza, I got to say, we say this is Harlem Week. But as you know, in my intro, I said it's July the 30th through the 26th. That doesn't calculate to a week. So tell me about Harlem Week. How did it start and how did it evolve into a week?
Harlem Week started out as Harlem Day in 1974 as a one-day event in Harlem. It was during the height of wholesale abandonment, a proliferation of drugs in the community. Percy Sutton was the borough president of Manhattan, and he was also a chairman of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce. He had talked to a few of us who were residents of Harlem and said it would really be great if we could have a one-day celebration for those of us who stayed and did not abandon Harlem. We did a one-day event, and on that first event in August in 1974, we did a ribbon cutting at 138th Street and Adam Clayton Powell, and at that time, 7th Avenue.
7th Avenue. Right.
And we renamed 7th Avenue Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard, the first time in the history of New York City that a street was renamed after a person of color.
Wow.
And that was our first activity. The next year was one day, and people started coming out, and the visual artists were there. Performing artists said, well, what about us? 2 days, 3 days, and eventually it became a week, and we were comfortable for a number of years with a week. But the request for the activities in the community was
became greater.
It was greater, but we said that we're going to be unique only in Harlem. During Harlem Week, could Harlem actually be a month? Nowhere else in the world.
Wow.
So we have that uniqueness about what we do.
When did it turn into a month? About what year?
Around 7 or 8 years after we originally started.
Wow, so it's been a month for quite a while.
Yes,
then.
yes. Oh,
it's
yes,
been a month
yes,
for quite a while.
yes.
And tell me about this year's festival.
This year's festival is very exciting for all of us because of each year we have a theme.
Right.
And this year is Harlem, Home of Immigrants, honoring New York's international diversity.
I'm going to stop you there because when I read that was the theme, I thought to myself, is this deliberate theme? Is it making a statement? Is it because of the times we live in? Are you trying to say something with this particular theme?
Well, what we've noticed is that we have been a global festival for quite some time over the years. We've had South African artists, we've had artists from Japan, in Asia, artists from the Caribbean, artists from Latin America, and then over the last 2 years, since President Obama was in office, we started having relationships with Cuba and bringing in Cuban artists. So we thought about it, and we were in Cuba a little over a year ago talking about the idea of how unique Harlem is. As we just walk through the streets, there are different pockets of Harlem, but Harlem wasn't always black. And so we really wanted to kind of reconnect with our history, and we came up with this idea about we're all immigrants, and you and I, we just shared a little conversation just before this, and you know, my parents and grandparents came from Jamaica. Our president, Lloyd Williams, his mother was born in Cuba, his father was born in Jamaica. So for all of us, we see the international components of what we've done. And so we came up with this. this is, lo and behold, it became a hot button item.
Yeah, I was thinking.
And when we started mentioning it to our friends and colleagues, and then of course it reached another a national platform by someone else, we said, but this is our community. And we really want to live with our tradition.
And Cuba, what are those things that they provide in the arts and in dance? How do they enhance the festival?
Because Harlem and Havana are known globally for their arts and culture and activism. And there are so many similarities between the culture and along with our then Congressman Charles Rangel, President Obama, a little over 2 years ago, we all went together. We were there.
Wow.
And he lifted up some of the restrictions, and we were there, and we met with the Minister of Culture, and Harlem Week became the first post-Obama cultural initiative in Cuba.
Wow. That must make you feel so good.
Well, yes. And so it's a lot to live up to. We have this global reputation for excellence, and I believe that we are still on that track. But we've added a number of really nice, we feel, and comprehensive and inclusive elements. For example, in Harlem, after 44 years, we now have a new congressman in Harlem, and he's Adriano Esliot. He is Dominican. And so...
That's the flavor.
Yeah, it adds flavor, and his district includes what we call Upper Manhattan, which is now a predominantly Dominican community. There's Central Harlem, predominantly African-American and African, and there's East Harlem with the Hispanic communities going from the Mexicans, the Cubans, the Puerto Ricans, all living together, and of course everyone else in between. And as we started, just measuring what this community is all about, we were just very pleased to say that we're going to incorporate that. It's needed now more than ever.
More than ever before.
So for us, the new ingredients to Harlem Week is the fact that we have now added Senegal. And so we will have a Senegal village on Harlem Day. We will also have a Dominican village in addition to all of the other activities that we have.
Wow, and speaking of adding flavor and adding something, Clayton, first of all, tell us what Silicon Harlem is and what your role is in Harlem Week. How did you start in Silicon Harlem?
It's my pleasure to tell you about that. But it's also great to be on your show. It's really a wonderful experience, and love what you guys do here. So Silicon Harlem is really focused on one key thing, and that is how do we create an economic driver for Upper Manhattan and other urban markets around the country using technology and innovation. And what that means is setting up co-working spaces, setting up incubators and accelerators, and really coalescing our startup community to come together and figure out how do they become successful. We believe that the tech and innovation sector is the jobs of the future. Right. And so our role in that as a for-profit social venture is to galvanize the community around that. In Harlem, we have great schools, but we need STEM taught in all of those schools. Right. And we've got great universities. They still need to keep up with what's happening in this tech sector. So we focus on education, on our civic duties, and how we can improve those. We talk a lot about how the community can solve its own problems. Okay. And we work diligently with all of the other stakeholders in Harlem, like the Chamber of Commerce, to create opportunities for all of our citizens. As far as Harlem Week, for us...
Yeah, the Intrepid, I heard something.
Yeah, the very first... one of the first events of Harlem Week is August 1st. Right. It's going to be on the Intrepid, which has an air and space museum right on the deck. And so we're bringing over 100 young people into that facility to do what we call a hackathon as part of the overall youth conference that we produce every year. And so part of that conference is going to be a hackathon where young people are going to sit down, form teams, and literally figure out how to develop a new mobile app or a new online platform to solve a civic issue that we'll be presenting. And teams will be judged because they'll be presenting and judged and have an opportunity to win a bunch of awards. So we're very excited about it because now what we're doing is we're shifting the paradigm, Sharon, from being a consumer to being a creator.
Right.
And what better place to do it than on the Intrepid and to have our young people come down.
Do you think this is an area that parents don't push their kids? Do they think it's not for them? Maybe there's something else, and that's why you're bringing it to Harlem? Is that something that's promoted in our community?
Well, we did a meetup in 2013 for the first time in Upper Manhattan, and 500 people came out.
Oh, okay.
So it let us know. I figured out that night that I wasn't the only geek uptown.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who know about it but needed a way to figure out how to come together with others. So I think the parents that maybe didn't grow up with the kind of technology their kids have access to, they do know how important it is for their kids to actually get it. And so we work both with kids but also with parents and, in fact, senior citizens.
Oh, wow.
One of the other events happening during Harlem Week is what we call demystifying technology, and that's geared right towards senior citizens. And it's one of our favorite events because almost 200 seniors come out for this thing, and they'll ask unbelievable questions that we love to entertain.
Because they're scared. They don't want to really change the way they do things. It's like the unknown.
That's exactly right. And by the way, we've all gone through that.
Yeah.
We all know that cycle. So when a senior says to me, you know, hey, Clayton, why is somebody asking me to be their friend on Facebook? We might sort of laugh about that, but the fact is a lot of us were thinking that too back in the first iteration of that. So yeah, and then so if you look at the senior citizen also, we're doing an event on Harlem Day where we actually have children from 3 to 7 working on Legos and working on robotics and all types of things. So it's an intergenerational production, if you will, for Harlem Week to make sure that our entire community locks in on tech and innovation as part of their future.
And Voza, you, as Clayton was talking about Harlem Day, you were saying about how many people, like that's the big day in Harlem Week, that thousands come. What do you focus on for Harlem Day, and what day of the 4 weeks is Harlem Day?
Well, Harlem Day, excuse me, always falls on that third Sunday of August. And on that day, it's also an opportunity for us to have 4 stages. So there's a Fifth Avenue stage, there's a stage on Malcolm X Boulevard, there's another stage at St. Nicholas Avenue, there's another stage in the Children's Festival. And on those stages, we then present our culture in all of its splendor.
Wow.
So, for example, Dance Theater of Harlem. They have not been able to perform with their main company during Harlem Week for years and years. This year on Harlem Day, August the 20th, at the St. Nicholas Avenue stage on 135th Street, the main company of Dance Theater of Harlem will be doing a tribute to James Brown.
Whoa! Wow.
So can you imagine?
That's going to be high energy. That's going to be high energy.
Very, very high energy. We really are excited because there's a sister organization that's also a member of the Greater Harlem Chamber called the Harlem Arts Alliance. Harlem Arts Alliance is an art service organization with about 400 members from individual performing and visual artists, museums and libraries and colleges and universities and churches, and they also are showcased with their events and activities on all throughout Harlem Week. And so again, the 2 days right next to each other are the 19th of August, which is what we call Summer in the City. Okay. We only have 1 stage on that day and a YMCA stage, but the opportunity for people to come out, dance,
Have a good time.
socialize,
Yes,
see
yes.
the vendors, and
Yeah.
now visit these villages that we're creating on those 2 days that are right next to each other, the 19th and 20th. It's just wonderful. And in the middle of all that are the Cubans.
It's just going to be, it's exciting.
And
it's
so
exciting.
it is a Harlem Havana Arts and Music Festival in the middle of Harlem Week.
I mean, there's so much. I mean, I'm looking at this, and there's so much to do, so much to see. Home of Immigrants, honoring New York's international diversity. And I know you kick it off on a high gear on Sunday, July 30th. There's dance, there's Hezekiah Walker. And I know once you get Hezekiah Walker in the midst, Hezekiah Walker is all energy.
Yes,
so you
yes.
starting with
we had
gospel
Donnie
and
McClurkin last year,
Donnie
and
McClurkin, Hezekiah Walker,
Yes, yes,
good
yeah.
friends, and
Yes.
high energy.
Yeah.
And you end with the 5K walk, the
Yeah.
Percy Sutton 5K
Yes,
walk.
yes.
You end on Saturday, August the 26th. And I have to tell you, our friends are a part of Harlem Week, and that's the Hip Hop Film Festival. We're the media partners, so
Yes.
we're getting that in there.
Oh, yes.
So they're a part of
Yes.
Harlem Week.
And we're very excited. Last year was our first introduction.
Yes,
to
that was
them.
their and they
And
kicked off with a bang.
Yes, yes, they
Yeah.
really did. And the National Black Theater, members of Harlem Week, and of course the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce. So we're just very, very pleased. This is a family, and it keeps on growing.
It keeps on growing.
It keeps on growing.
And you know, we're inviting
Yeah.
I love the fact they're having a tech section and to teach my mother, my grandmother, my great-grand-aunt, whoever, about tech, to encourage the young people that that's an industry you can get into. There's nothing to be afraid of. So we're looking forward to all the events. It's July the 30th through August the 26th. And Voza and Clayton, thank you so much for stopping by City Views and telling us all about this. And where can people get more information on Harlem Week?
They can go to harlemdiscover.com. On the internet, and they can also call our office, which is 212-862-7200.
Of course, we couldn't get through everything that you're doing for the week.
No.
We just touched on a little bit of it. And again, you know where you can get more information on the events. And thank you so much for stopping by City Views. I know it's going to be a success, as Harlem Weeks always is. Thank you for stopping by City Views,
Thank you
gentlemen.
very
Thank you.
much.